Hi cats and kittens, it's Amy from Savor, Salvage, Scent. Hope you're doing really, really well in spite of the world's challenges. For those of you who are new to the channel, this mostly focuses on all things perfume and fragrance related. For those of you returning, thank you so much for being here. Today I just thought I would share a little bit about my recent experience visiting the Guerlain perfume flagship in Paris on the Champs Elysees, and 2 scents I purchased. For those of you who are interested in learning more about Guerlain or a little more background history about the house or my collection, I'm going to link some videos below. I have been collecting perfume for about, 25 years, 30 years, but really I would say intensively probably 15. And a lot of my collection focuses on Guerlain. I probably have, 40 plus bottles of Guerlain perfume. A lot of you will know it's one of the first and oldest perfume houses and French, and I just have loved the diversity of experience, and the Guerlain DNA appeals to me. I like a lot of what runs through their scents. Whether it be a scent that's over 100 years old or something they just made a few years ago. So I thought first I would share a little bit about my visit to the shop, and then I will talk about 2 scents that I purchased, which are Nahema and Apres. So my first visit to Paris and the Guerlain flagship was in 2018. I had been collecting Guerlain for some time. For those of you who haven't seen the special by the BBC, I think it was called, did I write it down? Something Old, Something New. I'm also going to link that below. Really, really interesting. And it was about the perfume industry, but specifically about kind of this transformation or evolution of Guerlain from being this really old house owned by generations of family members who were noses to somewhat present day, transitioning to terroir, being the nose. And I found it super fascinating. But one of the things that really caught my attention, and this is my interpretation or wording, but was how Guerlain not only had this amazing history, but also was really, I would say, adept in the modern day and for years at being really, creating pivotal experiences for people who are into perfume. And one of the stories was about a mother bringing her young daughter into the shop. And what I felt I witnessed through this experience was it was her first kind of probably in-depth perfume experience, trying different perfumes, being in a perfume shop, and then choosing her first signature scent. I think it was Encelance, can't remember, but I loved watching it. This shop was beautiful through this film. And that's what kind of deposited this idea of when I go to Paris, I want to go to Guerlain. And so I would say, even though I was much older at that time, 45, I had a similar experience in that first it was just this sumptuous, beautiful, interesting, magical, but yet somehow unpretentious experience going to the shop, and one that kind of created a lifelong impression of like Guerlain being mine as well. And so I'll just tell you a little bit about that. So when I approached the shop, first you see this really old, beautiful shop in the Champs Elysees, where I find these days that a lot of the shops are not necessarily historic. A lot of them are about kind of like flash. But it was really neat to see this beautiful old shop with these old awnings. And then you, at least in 2018, you would approach the shop and see this gorgeous window that was full of what looked like jewels. And the jewels were the perfume taps, or the giant bottles of perfume, and the names of them. Gorgeous. For those of you who are interested, I will link down to my Instagram page, and I will be posting this week both photos from my 2008 visit, or 2018, I apologize, and also my 2022 visit. But 2018, when you approached the window, you saw these beautiful, the big taps full of different colors of perfume, and you could see their name, and it was just, what a way to draw you in. And then one of the things that, to me, which just created such an experience that I'll never forget, was instead of just having, let's say, tester bottles, they had very close to the taps, this beautiful display of probably 100 to 200. They were the tops of the B bottles, the glass tops, and they were kind of stuck in these little they were kind of like pegs and holes. And then they had a number on a ribbon tied to each. And so you would pick up this glass stopper and smell them. And what was so interesting to me was they didn't immediately tell you what you were smelling. You had this experience. It was based purely on your perception or what you were taking in. And then you could look up what number that was and what perfume it corresponded to. And what I loved about that, you of course could go to the other side of the shop and just start sniffing. But what I loved about it was you had this very authentic experience about like what you were really feeling, going through, how the scent made you feel. And that day, I think I smelled them all, though it took time and I kind of took rests in between. And I mean, honestly, there were not many I didn't at least enjoy. And then there were probably 10 to 20 I loved, and I kind of like wrote down on my phone, and recorded in my phone. And then I purchased 3 that day, and I thought it was really interesting because out of, let's say, my top 5, one was one that I had been wearing for years, Samsara, that I absolutely loved, and I just thought it was funny that it was like, oh yeah, girl, you know this scent, you've been wearing it for years. And then I purchased one of the kind of modern Shalimar flankers, those Souffle Intense. And I absolutely love that. And I bought a couple Aqua Allegoria scents, and I also bought a few bottles for gifts for my sisters. So the other thing that was just amazing to me about the experience was, in addition to people kind of being available when you walked in, greeting you, making you just feel welcome and special, they told you a little bit about how you could have bottles engraved, and then they told you a little bit about the process of how you could test the scents in that way, but also in the other room were a lot of the bottles for sale, and that you could also test things that way. And it was just this perfect balance of being available and welcoming, not kind of, what should I say, smothering, not talking down to, but being available for questions and that kind of thing. So I will just be frank. So I visited Paris a few weeks back, and was, as you can imagine, so excited to visit Guerlain again. And I had a pretty different experience. And, you know, sometimes things just change. It's okay that I had a different experience. It wasn't so bad that that I'm not still, of course, in love with and excited about Guerlain. But I think partly due to COVID and the pandemic, all of the jewel-like bottles from the window were gone. When I walked in, I was not greeted in the same manner. Things felt very disjointed, disconnected. The stoppers were still in the front window, and so I walked up and I asked the person, because there were no corresponding bottles anywhere, or information, or the computer that you looked up the numbers on, may I smell these? And the person was quickly like, well, no, and we don't have anything to kind of correspond with them. You go in the other room. And I was like, okay, all right, thank you for the help. And then I had the same experience that I had at Caron, where I just felt like, and I could see that there were different representatives in the shop that were kind of eyeing customers as they walked in, and you could tell kind of quickly assessing. And for whatever reason, people just did not seem to be as concerned with helping me as others. And I think it might have just been, you know, whatever. It was just a timing thing. I'm not sure. But the other thing that was a little odd for me was my first experience at Guerlain was, I felt like there was such a diversity of price points and scents to experience. Again, I remember it being in the hundreds. And this time, it just feels like, so one of the great things is they've kind of reestablished a baseline or a series of scents that are kind of like some of their historical or iconic scents. And I think they called Legends or Legendary. And happily, two scents that had recently been taken out of commission, probably just rebranded, I was able to purchase. And so those are the two I'm going to talk to you about today. One is, and I wanted to share with you just the beautiful packaging, the bag, and then these beautiful boxes. And you can see this one says Nahema with the bee, which is one of their emblems, and within these new bottles, which I'll share momentarily. The other kind of side, a room within the shop, was also really gorgeous. To be honest, there were like beautiful, they were like gold balloon bees. And I know that sounds tacky, but they were really, really gorgeous. And then all this like flora and fauna kind of on the walls. And the focus were this legendary line of probably, I would say, 12 to 18 like scents. Some of their classics that are all kind of rebranded in a certain way, which I'll share in a moment. There was also a line of, oh gosh, well, what did they call it? It wasn't art and materials. It was more of like a lighter scent line, including lingerie and a few others that I had read about. Some newer scents, some old scents brought back, but they were all, I found to be super, super faint. And where the legendary line, these bottles run, and they are, let's see, is it 2.5 ounces? They run anywhere from around 120 to about, I think, 150. The next line, I just found to be, they were interesting scents, but they were so light, and they started at like $180. And there was just a small group of them. And I just, for that reason, honestly, just was not super impressed at that price point. Kind of just quickly moved over those. And then the other, I mean, I would say their greatest area of like focus was the art of materials line. And I just was frankly a little put off because I had wanted to smell them in person for a long time. Some of them I had experienced in my past visit, but there are some new ones on the line and they've been kind of rebottled, and frankly, the price point pushed up. So the price point for that line now is $360 to $550. And while I'm sure a lot of you will know, I value the art of perfume more than probably the average person, I find that to be exclusive to the point of, yeah, you lost me. Like, those were just, I'm like, and there were some real beauties. I mean, I got to smell Angelique Noir, and it was just, I can't stop thinking about it. But I'll tell you what, I just don't know that I can swing it that cost. So I felt like if you were standing in front of the art and materials line, people were like, yes, let me talk to you. And then otherwise, people quickly kind of said to me, like, what are you interested in buying? And then it was like, I would say, like, I'm testing these still, I'm experiencing these. And then it was kind of like, how might I help you check out? And the other thing that I thought was hilarious was it's very typical for, perfumes at that price point. When you purchase, they throw some samples in because it's just smart marketing, honestly, because you're more likely to get hooked on those scents, right? And the person said to me, and I just think they should have kept it to themselves. It just was a strange thing to say. You probably are interested in samples. I don't have any, but I'm going to put some eye cream in here because you could probably use eye cream. And I was like, that's not incorrect. Thank you. I mean, look at these bags, y'all. But anyway, it was not the, honestly, just entirely impressive but yet unpretentious experience I had the first time. But was it terrible? No. And was it Guerlain? Yes. And it was wonderful in a lot of ways. And I still, I had a heck of a day. So I am now going to dive into the 2 scents that I purchased that I'm absolutely adoring, and share my experience with you with these. So again, they came in these they did package these just beautifully, which was great to put in a suitcase, very protective. And they were I think they were wrapped in tissue within here as well. And then you open it up and here are the boxes. give you an idea. And I should say first, thank you to, I'm going to link their channels below, Memory Flow, hi Florian, and to Sebastian Furtado, who have both, I was able to just collaborate with in this series that Florian created, and it was wonderful to do with Guerlain, and I will link that below as well. Or this video he created with a bunch of Guerlain lovers, and somewhat based on that introduction, Sebastian kindly sent me some decants, and I had wanted, it was out of production for some time, I'd wanted to get my hands on Apres Landais. So I'm going to talk about this scent first. He was kind enough to send me a decant, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm in love, absolutely in love. And I knew even before I went to Paris, that's going to be one of the bottles that I'm going to purchase. So I think this was first created in 1906, which is amazing because I do not feel, I mean, I love vintage scents and I wear a lot of them, but it still feels modern enough somehow, which is kind of incredible. So these, this is part of that Legendaries line. They were all kind of reproduced and rebottled. But it's interesting because there are things that harken back to the past. So this looks very much like Mitsuko's and some of the older scents original bottles, but with a more modern kind of brand and design, a little, I would just say more minimal, and same with the boxes. So really, really lovely. And I'm going to just tell you a little bit about Apres Landais for those who are not familiar. And let's see, I have that on this wrist. And I burned through the decant that Sebastian sent. It's so beautiful. I would say this one feels so Guerlain to me. And the reason being is I feel that the Guerlain DNA often has to do with spring flowers and powder. And so that is coming through here. Also, some of the older scents have anise or like a licoricey feel, which I love, but is not for everybody. But it's one of the reasons I love a lot of the older Guerlains. So this was created as a celebration of the sunshine after the rain. It was first created by Jacques Guerlain in 1906. The top notes are anise, cassia, neroli, bergamot, and lemon. The mid notes are violet, orris, mimosa, carnation, and sandalwood. And the base, you have, let's see, heliotrope, ylang ylang, vetiver, rose, jasmine, vanilla, musk, benzoin, styrax, and amber. So this is one of those cases where if I read the notes, there are certain things that would tell me about the perfume, but certain things would not translate. And what I mean by that is some of these base notes are very strong elements. This is still a very, to me, gentle perfume. It absolutely smells like its name. It smells like Guerlain's version of what the air would smell like after rain, and maybe even a little bit of the earth. So these spring kind of things come out. So you get like things like, you know, I get anise for sure. I get violet, and I get orris or iris root. That's a lot of what I feel here. Maybe there's a tinge of carnations, another thing that create like a floral feel and a powderiness, or even a slight spiciness or woodiness, but that's also the orris has that kind of like woody feel. And you get a tiny bit of like, I mean, I think the base notes, what they provide here is a bit of a powdery feel in the heliotrope too. But I also get I get a tiny bit of earth too. So I get why people talk about this definitely having that feeling of like after the rain. Now they describe it as after the rain and the sunlight. I don't necessarily get as much sunlight. I get like dewy spring garden with a little bit of powder too. And it's just, it is so elegant, so beautiful. This could be a year-round scent. I mean, I think it performs better probably in the spring and the summer, but it is just, there's nothing to me perfectly or exactly like it. And that was part of the reason I had to have it. I was just like, this is amazing. And I was honestly, because it was out of commission for a little bit, you know, I had the fear of missing out too. So really, really happy to have this. I think it's gorgeous. And thanks to Sebastian for turning me onto it. Now this Nahema has a different feel. And it feels like Guerlain in the fact that it's a beautiful, elegant, classic take on a floral, but it has its differences too, which I think is really cool. So this is the bottle. You can see the juice is a much different color. Really, really beautiful. So let me find, I have a little information about this too. Oh no, where did it go? There it is. All right. So I was shocked to read that this came along much later, because you could have convinced me that this was like a 20s or 30s perfume. This was created first in 1979 by John Paul Guerlain. And it's essentially supposed to be kind of like a nod to the rose, honoring the rose. And it talks about it being kind of like an oriental rose with a kind of spellbinding character. I mean, that's certainly their language. I would just say this is like such a gorgeous deep rose, and not exactly like any other rose I own, and a perfect rose for me, and I'll tell you why. Let me tell you the notes a little bit about the notes. Top notes are peach and passion fruit. So interesting. Mid notes are rose and hyacinth, and the base notes are sandalwood and patchouli. Again, depending on how strong of a role each of those notes plays, this could be totally different, you know. But here's what's wild to me. This is as much about the fruit as it is the rose. And what that does to the rose is it really amplifies it and makes it super jammy to me. And it's like equal parts tart, sweet, fruity, with a little bit of spice. Not so much spice that it smells like cinnamon or, you know, or like cloves or like eugenol or, you know, something like that. But it just makes it strong in the most wonderful way. And that fruit gives it this like, yeah, this base note feeling, or this, even though it's their top notes, it gives it this depth that is just gorgeous without being just about the fruit or immature or just a fruity floral. It just gives it this depth that's so, so, so beautiful. It also feels incredibly elegant. And I should say, sorry, when I talk about this equal parts, it's green too. It's definitely got some green. It almost smells like, what is it? There's a facet in Diptyque's, oh, what is the scent that has it has like a tomato leaf smell. You almost get that like green tomato leaf kind of smell, or is it black currant leaf that has that smell as well? You definitely get a green too, but it's not more green than it is floral fruity. So I just think this is a perfect rose. It's strong, it's elegant, it's addictive to me. The minute I smelled this, I actually thought I was going to smell it in the shop and decided it was too like old fashioned. And I smelled it and I was like, oh no, this is phenomenal. I don't smell anyone wearing this. I have never known somebody to own it in my circle. I feel like not many people talk about it anymore, although there's some YouTubers for sure. I'm pretty sure Sam from My World of Fragrance and some others have talked about it, but I just am in love with this. I highly suggest it. I think both of these scents are, I always believe perfume to be unisex, but I absolutely do not think they lean super masculine or feminine. I think anybody could wear them. I think this would be just gorgeous on anybody. So that is my experience with both Apres and Nahema so far. I would love to hear from you. Do you own or do you wear these scents? Are you curious about reformulations? One thing I didn't talk about is I wonder how much these differ from the older bottles that were, you know, recently around, let's say in the last 20 years. Have you been to the Guerlain shop recently? And what is your just feeling about the experience in the store? Thanks so much for watching, and can't wait to talk soon. I have a few more videos coming about other Paris perfume shop experiences. Until then, be well. Bye.